Tom Aspinall is officially the longest reigning interim champion of all time.
That is bull, isn't it? That is not something that I wanted.
All he wants is to fight Jon Jones, but whether Jones is ducking him, holding out for more money, or hoping Tom takes a fight and loses in the meantime, their fight still hasn't happened, and Tom is sick of it.
I've had enough. We either need to fight or I need to move on and do something else.
Jones is wasting the prime of Aspinall's career, and in a sport that moves so fast, it's costing him money, legacy, and everything he's worked for.
People can call me a duck and a chicken. I'm gonna go home and cash a massive check.
So this is how Jon Jones is destroying Tom Aspinall's career. In 2025, there's one fight MMA fans want to see more than anything: Jon Jones versus Tom Aspinall. Not only is the heavyweight champion taking on the interim champion right for the division, it's stylistically fascinating. Aspinall is this new breed of heavyweight that we've never seen before.
You want to talk about a guy who's fast twitch? Aspinall's one of the fastest heavyweights. He might be the fastest heavyweight in the history of the sport.
And Jon Jones, as one of the greatest of all time, needs no introduction. So everyone wants to find out, how will Jon deal with a 6'5" athletic heavyweight in the prime of his career? It's a tale as old as time. The old great returns for one more battle against the younger fighter who truly believes he has what it takes. But realistically, this fight could and should have happened a long time ago, but for whatever reason, it hasn't.
Because Jon Jones doesn't want to fight him, then I'm sorry, this is really going to tarnish his legacy.
And now, it's at the point where it's starting to define Aspinall's career, and not in a good way. Jon's heavyweight career up to this point has been extremely weird. He hadn't fought in over 3 years, but on his heavyweight debut was given a title shot, and it was for a vacant title against Ciryl Gane. Many believe it was a great stylistic matchup for Jon with his wrestling, considering Gane was out-grappled by Francis Ngannou not long prior.
It's interesting to hear Ciryl say that it was a strength issue. I spent a lot of time in the weight room. I feel like not only am I a very strong athlete right now, but I have a lot of technique. It's more than strength. So it just makes me feel even better that he believes that it was strength that got him to the floor. I'm coming with a lot of strength, a lot of endurance, and most importantly, some pretty strong technique.
Since that victory all the way back in March 2023, Jones has defended the title just once in over 2 years. And despite there being a present and active interim heavyweight champion in Tom Aspinall, Jon fought Stipe Mioic instead. It was an unprecedented move by the UFC. They painted it as a legacy fight, pointing to Stipe as the best heavyweight of all time.
Jon Jones should be stripped of the title, to be honest, because everyone else does when they get injured like that. I don't see why he's still got it. I don't understand that. I think I should be the real champion right now. And it's hard to say without sounding rude, but who's asked about Jon Jones and Stipe anymore? Like, why do we get this legacy fight and they get to live by their own rules? What's a legacy fight? What's a retirement fight for a title?
But in reality, he was 42 years old and hadn't won a fight in over 4 years. In all that time, Aspinall had won the interim heavyweight title and even defended that title, which makes no sense whatsoever. And both their defenses were less than 4 months apart from each other. In any other division, at any other time, if the champion refused to fight the interim title holder, Dana would strip him, make Tom the undisputed champion, and move on. Yet it feels like Jon Jones has this strange protection by the UFC, where he doesn't have to play by any rules.
You know, the way I look at it, I'm the best heavyweight in the world, and I'm not getting my credit for it. They're holding the belt hostage, mate, and Jon Jones is loving it. He's loving the fact that Dana White's getting on every interview possible. Friggin' hell, you talk about something, you're talking about bantamweights, and Dana White flips it back and starts talking about how good Jon Jones is. I'm like, mate, if he's that good, let's fight. Like, I'm the #1 heavyweight in the world right now. Let's put it on the line and let's see who the man is.
Perhaps it's Dana's love for Jon Jones as the best fighter in the world, or him believing if the fight does eventually happen, it'll be enormous. At this point, Tom Aspinall has become the longest reigning interim champion in UFC history, a record he isn't proud of.
Yeah, it's a lot of that is bull, isn't it? That is not something that I wanted. No, it's not something that I'm not that proud of that one, to be honest. The interim title's nice, but the longest reigning one, I obviously wanted to contend for the undisputed in the time that I've been interim, so.
But the weirdest thing is just the silence on Jon Jones' end. He's hardly ever addressed Tom Aspinall's existence and even outright refuses to talk about him.
Good. How's it going?
I'm good. How are you?
Doing all right.
Good, man.
Good.
Have a seat, sir.
Hey, I'm not gonna do this interview. You don't want to do it? No, because it's gonna be an Aspinall Fest. I'm not gonna.
Jon isn't injured, he isn't retiring as far as we know, so from the fans' point of view, there's zero reason why this fight shouldn't be happening right now. Some people even think Jon has a bit of doubt about accepting the fight.
When I fought Jones the first time, I was 36 years old. When we fought the second time, I was 38, about to go 39 years old. Like, we were up in age when we were, how old were you when you fought Jones?
Yeah, 38.
Yeah, we were old. He was a young guy, 27.
Yep.
Now it's like he's on the opposite end of that, and like there's some worry when you look in the mirror and look at a 38-year-old man opposed to that 27-year-old kid that he was before, and recognize that Tom Aspinall's dangerous.
And it's not down to Aspinall's lack of trying.
Because there is nowhere that you can find publicly, nowhere, him saying that he will fight me. It doesn't exist. I challenge anybody watching this interview to go and find a statement, a quote, a video where Jon Jones is saying that he'll fight me after he's fought Stipe.
He's tried to call him out respectfully, tried to push his ego, created this meme culture about Jon ducking and so much more, yet whenever Jon has acknowledged Tom in the past, he simply discredits him. He even tried to lobby for a different fight after beating Stipe.
I'm not really worried about the Tom fight. I'm really worried about the Pereira fight. That's what I want to do. That's what I want to do, and I think if the UFC wants to have me back, then I think that's the fight they'll make. I've been really clear about my intentions. That's what I want.
His problem is Aspinall's so-called lack of legacy. But with Jon holding up the heavyweight division, Tom can't build his star power. As interim champion, he can't keep fighting random contenders. Jones essentially holds all the cards right now, and I'm sure it's taken so long because he's just negotiating with the UFC for an outrageous amount of money.
When you put him in with, I'm not trying to blow my own trumpet, but I'm literally the most dangerous guy in the UFC if you look at the stats. When you put him in with a guy of my size who has them credentials at this stage in his career, I think Jon's a smart guy and he realizes that, so he wants compensating financially for it.
After all, it's probably his last fight ever. A huge payday and an enormous risk that Jones doesn't need to take. He could sail off into the sunset as the GOAT whenever he wants. Sure, there will be some naysayers who say he ducked Aspinall, but his resume speaks for himself. But if you were Team Jon, you'd surely want this fight to happen sooner rather than later. Jones is creeping closer and closer to 40, while Aspinall is in the midst of his prime. And it's that last point that is starting to bug UFC fans, because these negotiations have gone for so long now that we're losing the chance to witness an active and prime Tom Aspinall. It's at the point where even Tom himself is fed up with it and just wants to move on.
And how does it feel that you constantly have to address this topic?
Oh, I'm well bored of it. I've had enough. We either need to fight or I need to move on and do something else.
From 2019 to 2023, Aspinall has fought twice a year, every year like clockwork. He even blew his knee out at that time, yet still stepped into the octagon on 2 separate occasions. But after being intertwined with Jon Jones, his activity has plummeted. There was just the interim title win in mid-2024, and now almost halfway through 2025, there has been nothing. And Tom isn't naive. At 32 years old, he's fully aware he's on the back half of his career.
I think I've been pretty open with my fighting career. Like, I want to be done sooner rather than later. Yeah. I would rather be a couple too early than a couple too late, because now we get into the realm, and I don't want to like sit on the podcast and name drop anybody who's struggling at the moment. But there's a couple of peers who are like the generation above me, who I'm close friends with now. And those guys are struggling. Yeah, it's like you should have called it. Yeah, like physically.
He doesn't want to overstay his welcome, doesn't seem the type who'd hang around for a couple extra paydays, and would want to leave while on top. Yes, heavyweights tend to fight into their late 30s and beyond more often than the lighter weight classes, but Tom Aspinall realistically may have just 4 or 5 years left in his career, and almost the past 2 have been consumed by the idea of fighting Jon Jones. It's not what anyone wants their career to be about.
Hold someone else's dreams back from becoming a reality, that is ducking. That is ducking, because there is a time-honored tradition in this business, in the sport, in combat sports, in fight sports, in sports period, that the whole thing has to move along. It's not about your story. Your story is great, and you're living your best life, great. Get rid of that belt.
There's some obvious differences, But this story isn't too dissimilar to Michael Chandler's saga with Conor McGregor. After coaching the Ultimate Fighter against each other, Chandler held out for the big payday that never came. He lost vital money-making years in the twilight of his career, and whether it was ring rust, old age, or just the skill of his opponents, Chandler hasn't won a fight since. Now, we're not saying this will be the same outcome for Aspinall, but whether he fights Jon or not, beats him or not, he's lost and continues to lose a lot of time during the prime of his career. For most fighters, that period where the experience, skills, and athleticism all align is very short. MMA moves unbelievably fast. Just look at the likes of Kamaru Usman, Henry Cejudo, even Israel Adesanya. They have a few years where everyone comes together perfectly and they look seemingly unstoppable. Then, in what feels like the blink of an eye, you're dethroned on a 3-fight losing streak, and people begin questioning if you were even that great. And it's at that spot where Tom Aspinall is right now. He should be laying down title defense after title defense, breaking Stipe's record, and establishing himself as the greatest heavyweight of all time. He'd be headlining 2 giant pay-per-views a year, cashing in on a lifetime's work, and becoming even more of a star than he is today. But Jon Jones isn't even giving him the chance to do that.
If when you tell the full story of Jon Jones, and Lord knows there'll be a lot of chapters, some incredible highs and some incredible lows, if you don't end it on, there was 1 fight left and he didn't take it. But I get it. You lose that fight, and now you ended your career on a loss.
Now, I'm almost certain they'll end up fighting, and it'll undoubtedly be the card of the year. But whatever the outcome, Jones has wasted a lot of Aspinall's time, career, and energy that he'll never be able to get back.